Live streaming is on.
Social and musical evolution. Yeah. Christine,
Hey,
how are you?
I'm fine.
That's good.
How are you?
Girl, I'm sure it's hotter here.
I don't know. It's pretty hot here.
It was almost 100 the other day.
Yeah, here too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you staying cool?
I am in my room with a fan going.
Yeah.
And trying not to turn on the air conditioner. I don't know if that's gonna last much longer.
Well, you have one. I don't have one.
Yeah.
Uh,
And so
I'm glad you have one if you need it.
Been trying to avoid it, but I found like the oscillating fan that turns.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually pretty good. I mean, you because the most important thing is not the cool air, but it's the circulation of air. And,
yeah.
But I guess if you're in a small space and it's hot, you turn a fan on, you're just circulating hot air. So that's the long and short of it. So how are things in the how can I say the bureaucratic, the educational, the religious sense in Geneva?
I think some things are in our organization. Some things, we're able to offer some resources through some books we're publishing and events we're organizing online, which I think help people to connect to some of the current issues and also to each other. So that's really good. But I think a lot of organizations are struggling, so.
Yeah, especially if they're not used to conversation. I find that you would think that there's always been that, but it has not always been like that. So it's difficult for a lot of people to bring themselves to that. I've been watching since midday. I've been watching the testimonies in front of the Senate, the Congress.
Yeah.
How can I say it? Some of it was laughable, but it was just like, but I'm constantly referred back to as a pastor and a Christian, is that we're not unawares of the devices of the enemy. It's like it's clear. It's not like he's pulling he's like pulling your leg or something. And then you see all of the things that are happening. So when the discussion that we were having last week about sending kids back to school, so there was a big push on, getting the conversation going and sending the kids back to school. And so there was some allotment of monies to the states and the cities and so on and so forth. And so now they've twisted that the conversation has been shifted relative to why the kids need to go back to school, because they're saying that it's a psychological, sociological thing that for the reasons why they really do need to get back to school, and to the point of saying that it's not as detrimental, the kids coming down with the virus, as it would be with everybody else in the population. And I'm just thinking, that's not right. Okay, it's just not right. Okay, so the whole idea is, yes, we We know that the wolf is out there. But our kids are resilient. We can send them out and they won't be as affected as if a grown person walked out and the wolf jumped on them. It's kind of like stuff like that you're thinking, and you're thinking, how can any self-respecting person think like that? And then you see that there was this push now that there was a debate in the conversation that when you're saying that we can't go to church at Calvary Chapel, and you got, they're not saying that it's not good for people to be out protesting, but it's not good for people. They're not allowing the churches, these mega churches, to have their meetings and stuff. And then they're trying to twist the arms of the scientific people to say that, isn't it the same thing of the two? And I'm just thinking, I said, where is the logic? Where does the logic come in with that, with the Calvary Chapel inside and people protesting outside and maybe wearing a mask outside, and in church they're not wearing, masks. And the guy, Herman Cain, that died, he was at the Tulsa rally with all of those people around him. So we're looking at the thing. Okay, so if you got it there, so all of those people that are surrounded in that picture need to be checked. They need to go and be handled and so on and so forth. And it's just amazing. And or the senator, what is it, Gronert? I can't remember where he's from, but he was saying he was refusing to wear a mask. No, he's tested positive, and they said he was giving down, berating people in his office that were insisting on wearing a mask.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
Mm.
it's just amazing, just amazing.
Yeah. Well, I think we're seeing the results of kind of progressive decline in inability to have a conversation, in motivation to have conversation, to have genuine dialogue, where we're not just caricaturing each other, and where we're, actually trying to build together. One, just where you started, so what to do about it, I guess that's why we're persisting in this dialogue, to to grow ourselves and to show the importance of dialogue, including difficult dialogue, including with different perspectives, but where we all have a commonality of purpose, and we're on each other's side. I saw a Facebook post from Miroslav Volf, who's a theologian at Yale. Something like, I forget who he was quoting, but he was quoting something and said, war is when you're sort of, I should find it, because he's talking about war is when basically you're seeking to win and defeat your enemy, and there's another term that he used, is when you're trying to convince, and what he sees happening now is war, social war, which is really, really sad and scary for our culture.
Well, it's saying that I've got to win.
I can look it up. Yeah.
It's saying that I've got to win. I've got to win in this situation.
And it's demonizing the other, and it's taking an approach of if I have the righteous opinion, here's the quote: if I have a righteous opinion, then whatever it takes to win, including sort of destroying the other, And this othering of each other is very scary. So here's the quote: "There is a big difference." I guess it's his own quote. "There is a big difference between war and struggle. Enemies wage wars. Contestants are engaged in a struggle. In war, the goal is elimination of enemy. In struggle, the goal is victory. In the US today, we seem more to..."
I've lost your audio.
Be in the dangerous territory.
Okay.
And see, do you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yes.
I'm here.
Okay.
Okay. Turn off the video. Oh, did you hear the quote?
Not all of it.
Oh, I'll just read it again. It just struck me today, and it reminds me of what we're talking about. So this is Miroslav Volf. "There is a big difference between war and struggle. Enemies wage wars. Contestants are engaged in struggle. In war, the goal is elimination of enemy. In struggle, the goal is victory. In the US today, we seem to be more in the dangerous territory of a cultural and political war." So we're talking about ethics. Where's the morality and the ethics in the thing? John, we all are, so impressed with John Lewis for many reasons, but one of the reasons is that he was, there's a deep love and a deep kind of commitment to reconcile, while pursuing justice, to pursue reconciliation, to constantly call people to the truth, call people to justice, not think, just what we were talking about last time. And we seem to be having a hard time, easy time dehumanizing each other, and a hard time, disagreeing and feeling impelled to engage in even struggle for what we believe in, and at the same time, having a certain maintaining the dignity of the other in the process.
Yeah.
So, and I think that we see, yes, a breakdown in the ability to converse, and in a desire, in a sense that there's a need to converse, and it's just a kind of power over, coming at each other. There's not much nuance. There's not much analysis. There is analysis in the part of some, but in a lot of the public debates we see, there's not too much going on.
Yeah. There's there is. How can I say it? There's a lot of hatred.
Yeah.
That's just being showcased in a huge way.
Yeah.
That that it used to be that you weren't seeing that. It was too ugly to to just come out with that. And so I see, and maybe it's just because I don't think it's even that, that the years of not having the video camera going when the conversations were going from a political standpoint, when they're their attacks. So if the president, I'm seeing, I don't know what's going on in Switzerland, but I'm seeing the same kind of thing happening here. We have the opposition that pretty much is being, not even devil's advocate, but so the problem that Italy has now, an immediate problem, is that you have people coming up crossing the Mediterranean from Africa, namely North Africa and Libya to be specific, and they're coming. Well, they're the famous boat people. You know, the U.S. had the boat people back in the day, and so now Europe has boat people, and you know they're trying to reach the shores, and Europe has decided that it will not turn a deaf ear to that, and we must act. And so, since Italy is the one of the hubs, I'm not seeing it happen as much going into Spain, but Italy is like on the forefront of that. And so there are thousands and hundreds of thousands of people that come on boats and all kinds of ways of getting here. And they show up. And so the deal is, do we let them sit there and die, or you know, or do we invite them in? And so one of the specific situations happened that there was a politician in the opposition that said, no, we're not going to take them in. They're just going to sit there and die. And like, you know, people went down. I think it was like 100 or more people went down. And so according to European law, he's being prosecuted relative to his part in that. And, you know, a lot of people are hoping that that is his undoing, because he's like an Italian Trump, and he's very much on the fascist side. But it's causing a strain because a lot of these people come with COVID, and so there's a COVID outbreak amongst them, and and so with adding thousands and thousands to the same thing, that part, you know, that port that's open is being tested. And so in using the fashion that we kind of taught the world is to warehouse people. And so they're warehousing a lot of people, and they can only warehouse people so long until, you know, they start to resist and try and break loose and what have you. So they have all of that going on. And initially it was different because there was, how can I say it? There was a system. They had systems in place to kind of take care of the situation. Now, you know, it's being overrun, and then it's causing, you know, the fear is that it's causing a strain on a medical or healthcare system that's already strained by COVID-19 from people that are already here. So that is the complication of this whole thing that's here. And I think it's reasonable to discuss it. There is the idea that possibly this is on purpose from, you know, from Libya, that they just continue to allow people to go because it's a marketplace. But otherwise, you know, people would not be coming in those numbers, and they're spending, you know, 3,000-4,000 a head to get on one of those boats and come over. And so, needless to say, with that kind of marketplace going, there's big money behind it. And so for them to arrive here, it's like, okay, and then what? And so,
wow, where are they mostly coming from?
They're coming from North Africa, from Libya. And,
wow.
And so, if you look at the map, you know, it's interesting to see.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you know, I mean, it's I guess it's wise to think of you know, what the situation can look like. So you have, so I guess they would come from through Libya and then be phased through Tunisia if possible, and come that way. And we're not seeing, if you look at the map, we're not seeing a lot of the the arrival in Spain. I don't know what's the story. It could be a political issue, but mostly they're arriving in Italy, and and they've taken a position to assist people to come in. So it's like coming from Libya. I guess the first port of call would be Italy. And they come in this place called Lampedusa, and it's just amazing. It's
wow. Yeah.
It's just. You remember
We
when?
know the refugee situation, the migrant and refugee situation wasn't easy to begin with, and now with COVID, that's really. I'm not hearing too much about this, in the media.
Well, probably because you're in Switzerland, and
yeah, but also in international media.
Well, what's happened is that with the story with all of the juxtaposition with Turkey and Syria and Greece and all of that, the Turkish have been making assaults on the Syrian shores, and so a lot of those people are in they're fleeing, and they fled, a lot of those people, into Greece and other places. And so now, just recently, Turkey expelled thousands of people. It's like, but where are they going? Where are they going to go? It's just,
Yeah.
And so it's like it's almost like a political blackmail. So if you don't give us money to take care and house these people, and they're not giving them the full brunt of the monies that they're getting, then they're just have these people fleeing back and forth, and it's just I'm appalled. So I'm appalled to see, but I don't know if you remember when those people, first of all, when they left Syria, when there was all of that, the bombing and all of that. So there's already this conflict between the Kurds and the Turks already, and so a lot of the Kurds had moved over into Syria, and so the Syrian people were just in flux because there was so much bombing going on, and they were going either. You remember back, what is it? Maybe a year ago or so, where they had the picture of the child that was on the shore that had died. It was it's just that. And so now, they've tried to filter them into Greece and so on and so forth. But it's interesting if you take it from a racial standpoint. At first everybody was trying to work it out, and they were going to Germany, they were going to hither and yon, and so on and so forth. Okay, and so that kind of took the spotlight over all of the people that were coming up out of North Africa, coming into these that space. So now you're back to the story because the UN and God knows how many other agencies kind of threw money at that situation. And I'm not saying money didn't need to be thrown at that situation, but there was a great deal of focus on that and how we're going to deal with those people. And so you remember that there were hundreds and thousands of people that they hauled into Germany, and they opened the doors. And so what? But quote unquote, these people are considered white, and the people that are coming on the boats are from North Africa. And how can I say it? They're not exactly considered white. There are a lot of a good percentage of Arabs and so on and so forth. But most of these people are coming straight up of sub-Saharan Africa, and it's just amazing, just amazing. And so the new job that Eusebio has is to assist these immigrants in getting settled and so on and so forth. But the people that are coming from North Africa, So his job is working with them and getting them the permission to stay and so on and so forth. But it's just, you know, it's heartbreaking. I was watching something, and I don't want to go on, but I was watching something where this guy was talking about how much the fascists did for Italy and how they did this, and he refuted everything down to that. And then he said that the pièce de résistance was when they had these young guys that were refusing to participate, and they took them to a stadium and they just shot them, you know, and then they just
to participate in what?
In the whole fascist movement.
Oh.
And then they hauled them, put them at the stadium, and they urinated on them, and they shot them. They just shot them, and you know, it was just, it's just outrageous, you know. And so what we're seeing is a rise in this kind of hatred, this kind of how can I say it? This zero feeling of community, of life, the value of life, and so on and so forth. And I liken it to a song that Bert Bacharach and Hal David sang. It's called "The Winners of the World." It says, "The winners of the world are covered with fame. What will the whole world? What is this whole world coming to?" And the line says, "Everybody knows when men cannot be friends, that quarrel often ends when some have to die. Let the sun shine through." And I think we're kind of there. I think we're seriously there. Welcome, Brenda.
You know, hi.
I
was
Hi.
thinking as you hi, y'all. I didn't do the Southern thing. I didn't say hi, y'all. I was thinking as you were talking, what's happening is, in fact, a reversion to tribalism. My tribe is what matters. My tribe must win above everyone. And if it takes wiping you out, then I will no longer see you as a human being. I'll see you as a thing, which gives me permission to do whatever I can or will against you. And it's okay because I'm saving the tribe. Humans are very capable of that. We've not got to be incapable of it. And this is the pivot point. For some reason, we've got to the point, and it's God, we've got to the point that we've got to decide if we're going to transition from our tribal beginnings, our tribal instincts, into a more global understanding of humanity. And we hold on to the tribal because we're afraid and we're lazy. And we have a cruel streak in us. We're greedy. That's what it is. We're greedy. But if we will let go of tribalism, we can also let go of the fear, and we can also let go of the greed. And we can remember that the cattle on a thousand belong to God. There is no lack, people. That's a lie from the devil. There's not only enough, there's more than enough. The caveat is that human beings must decide to share and wait their turn.
Yeah.
And what we've got to deal with in our DNA is the push to take it all and to leave nothing for anyone else, because dagnabbit, it's my tribe, it's me, it's mine. We're right there. And we are in the process of making that decision right now. As a global unit, we are deciding.
Yeah, Christine had quoted something. You want to repeat what the thing that you had?
Yeah, we Brenda, we started the conversation talking about the difficulty that we are having conversation, and I just I saw a quote by a theologian that I studied with at Yale Divinity School on Facebook earlier, and it struck me. He said, there is a big difference between war and struggle. Enemies wage wars. Contestants are engaged in struggle. In war, the goal is the elimination of enemy. In struggle, the goal is victory. In the US today, we seem to be more in the dangerous territory of a cultural and political war. I just thought that was interesting, that it's not, and it brings in the justice issue, so in looking at human tendencies to tribalism and greed, at the same time, we're in the midst of some tribes, calling others to justice, rightly so, and yet in the process of the thing, are we at war or are we in a struggle? And lots of leaders of struggles, there have been different approaches, but lots of leaders that we admire, including John Lewis, have held out this vision to continue to speak truth and, not back down and do difficult things, but to always hold out hope for for change and for coming together around these things, and to never sort of undermine the basic human dignity of the sometimes opponent, we must say, in a struggle, there can be a contest for, in Congress, a contest in church, a contest in school, for what do we believe is correct and just, and what's the way forward here. But wow, we are degenerating to some point of it's always been there, but we're the otherizing that is going all around, the demonizing, the dehumanizing. It's dangerous, as Miroslav Volf said. This is dangerous territory. And so I think it always
will be dangerous territory.
But yes. Yes.
I think it's rather interesting that we're talking in the year 2020, when I think that the humor is that perfect vision is 2020, and so we're having a perfect vision and clarity of the time. It's just there. It's like all the veneer is off, and it used to be the other, but now it's the other unequal, lesser than us. It used to be separate but equal, but it's separate but never equal. We get that. But I haven't invoked this before, but I hear James 4 ringing through. It says, "From whence come wars and fighting among you? They come not hence, even of your lusts and war that war in your members. You lust and you have not. You kill, you desire to have and cannot have. You fight and you war and you cannot have because you ask not, and you ask not, and you receive not. You ask and receive not because you ask amiss, and that you might consume them on your lust." It's hoarding. Okay, there's this song that I've been working on forever. It says, "He giveth more grace," and the line in the song where this, when we have reached the end of our hoarded resources, our Father's full giving has only begun. It's the truth. How could we have so many billionaires on the planet and so many people be hungry and missing and the whole thing? Or this, as I was looking at the hearing today, and the guy was saying, we've given billions and billions, and the billions are there, and the schools, they have the resources, all they have to ask for it, and so on and so forth. And I just, and you hear it over and over and over again, but you hear that there's the hoarding. It's the hoarding for power
and the lying. It makes no sense for this America to be the richest country in the world and the people dying of starvation. It doesn't make any sense. It's obscene.
Yeah.
It's obscene. It is sin. It is sin in the veriest form. Christine was talking earlier, and I was remembering John Lewis said in his last op-ed, democracy is not a state. It's an act. We have to act to preserve it. America has always been a dream, and it can die just like that. We're watching it on the verge of death, gasping, and it's dying because, I mean, look at this country. Look at what this virus this pandemic has made evident. And you can turn your eye, or you can look it squarely in the face. The moment anybody figured out that the vast majority of people who die quickest and most horribly of COVID-19 are brown and black people, they went, oh, well, we don't have to worry about them. And the turnaround has come that, oh, it just skipped. It stopped being just us. It's you too. But we watch the machinations of the human soul. These people are making these calculated risks, thinking that they aren't going to be involved, when in fact, yeah, you are. We're in this together. Don't you get it?
Yeah.
You can't divide us up so that your group is immune and everybody else can go to hell. It doesn't work like that. God refuses but to work that way. And it's just like with money, debt, this lack, all of this stuff is manufactured by human beings. It is not so in the kingdom. It doesn't have to be so. And it's only so to the extent that you and I buy into the wretched system.
Absolutely.
We can choose to let go of it, or we can choose to hang on like rats on a sinking ship. We get to choose.
Mm-hmm.
Frankly, I ain't never liked rats, and I can't swim. My choice is obvious.
Well, it's rather interesting when you look at, as I said, a thought that arrived and went, but looking at the situation where they're clearly stating, so in the House hearings they had 3 physicians, and there was one that was representing, quote unquote, the government. There's 2 representing the CDC, and you just hear the when they say, well, children are, they're not going to get this. It's like, are you crazy? Are you crazy? So then the politician said, in all of the hearings that we've done, we've not heard of anyone under 19 getting this. It's really not the truth, because that.
Go to Texas. They got bunches of babies dying and sick.
Absolutely.
Go to Texas.
Absolutely. And so they're saying that we haven't seen it, they haven't heard it, and so on and so forth.
So they're knowingly lying.
Yeah.
They know they're lying.
And
still they do it on national television.
So in their push to put people back to school, they're saying they can't understand why DC is saying, we're not pushing people and teachers to go back to school as fast as people are talking about. And they've said that they can't understand why Virginia, whose governor is a physician,
the doctor,
is not rushing to send people back into the lines. It's just amazing.
Children are germ magnets. They're germ magnets and everything else. We love them, but they are germ magnets. Why wouldn't they be germ magnets in this one isolated instance? That is nonsensical. Nonsense.
Absolutely.
You don't have to be a rocket science to know you're being lied to, and you've been asked you're being sold a bill of goods. This is ridiculous. And folks go, well, that might, no, it's not true. You know it's not true from your own lived experience. It doesn't make any sense.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm a little hit up today. Excuse me.
Christine, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. So if you want to say something, jump in. But it's but for those of us that work with kids, it's not the truth. I mean, I've taught elementary, middle, and upper school, and I was out more for the elementary school kids than I was ever for any of the ones that were older, because they just pass it on. I mean, the kindergartens, it's this a young lady, Eusebia's niece. She said the child came in and gave everybody cold, a virus, the flu, or whatever else that they had. This is last year, and everybody was out. I mean, the teachers were out, the kids were out, the whole thing, And so now, even now, that with the social distancing and all that, and I'm seeing, okay, now we're taking a deep breath here, but so now I'm seeing people. Okay, they won't wear the mask. They put them nicely on their sleeve and stuff. And I'm thinking, are you crazy? Are you crazy? So it's almost like, okay, death has to come visit your family before you get it. Okay, death or somebody has to come test positive or something like that and suffer like a dog before you accept the fact that it's real. And so, like I said, you're seeing people. Yeah, they have the cute little thing, and I'm saying, and the teenagers. I'm walking on the streets like they are not wearing a mask. Here, it's the law. Okay, we're not talking in the United States where it's like, yeah, if you feel like it, we're not going to really. No, it's the law. And if you get on the train or the tram without it, they're supposed to kick off. I'm sitting across from this guy. And I'm thinking, he's not wearing a mask. And then he gets up and he takes his bike off the tram and he puts a mask on. And I'm thinking, whatever. And I'm not saying it is a pain in the butt to wear it. I'm an asthmatic. I know it's like that. But if that small amount of material can save your life or life of somebody in your family, as it wear it. Get over yourself and wear it. And I think that's what we're coming down to. It's like there's this so how can I go back to it? The guy was talking about you have the First Amendment rights that we have of protests and so on and so forth. But he says there's the right to have religion and so on and so forth, and that this whole thing is putting a block on religion and people being able to go to restaurants. And it's like, are we crazy? What is wrong with people?
Look, we got folks that haven't been to church in a month of Sundays. Talking about, when are we going to have church again? We miss church. Didn't know it from your behavior. Have not seen you in 6 months. What you talking about? Bless your heart.
Yeah, but I remember what you said last time. You said folk in the hood are going away from here because they're going to barbecues, church, funerals.
Church. That's right. They are in record number.
And so,
it's striking that. It's striking that even like in Italy, for example, where you were hit so hard and you had such an extended period of, quite extreme measures that, that people just go back so quickly. And it's similar here in Geneva, in Switzerland. Where we weren't as hard hit, but we did have a pretty strong lockdown, and it opened up, very quickly. And now the numbers are going up a bit, and they're starting to put laws in place to wear masks in stores as well as public transportation. And they've just decided to, close down nightclubs that had opened and this and that. So it's striking how forgetful, we know it's true, but it's striking how forgetful, humans are, and or just how we fail to kind of get the point through our thick head sometimes.
I think leading the charge, I must say, are the Americans. I've just not seen anything like it.
Yeah.
When the people, okay, they have decided the chains of stores that you go to all the time, Costco and whatever else that's out there, have said, if you don't have a mask on, you're not going to come up in here shopping. That is for your sake and the sake of the people that work here and all the other people that are there. Okay, so you've had your Costco card forever and a day, and you decided you could care less about it because your First Amendment rights or some law that you think you pulled out of that hat allows you to walk up in there, and they got to serve you and they got to let you walk around with no mask. And then you're offended because they call the police on you. Finally, they call the police on you because you have no mask, and you're having a moment in your car. And I've seen way too many of them, because they're saying it's my right. I don't have to wear a mask. And I'm just thinking, are we kidding? I mean, how many more people in the US of A, 150,000, have already died? How many have to die? But I think what really is, the truth is that somebody in your family has to come down with it before the people really, okay, or then you don't wear the mask and all of a sudden you're in difficulty, and then on your deathbed you're talking smack. Okay, so if that might be,
the Republican African American candidate from the last round, Herman Cain, went to Tulsa to the Trump campaign, contracted COVID-19, was in the ICU for a month. He died for the team.
And the day before he died, he was on the thing talking about how he supported the president in the way that he was. And I was thinking, you didn't get it. That memo that came from...
No, he got it. He got it and gave. He gave his life. Yeah. He got it. He certainly did get it.
Yeah.
Was it worth it? Can't ask him. He gone, but he got it.
Well, and the other guy who they said he berated everybody in his office that was wearing a mask.
Now he's in ICU.
Oh, okay. So his position is escalating.
Changed drastically.
Yeah.
Jesus is right to call us sheep. Sheep are really, really dumb. They're cute, but they're dumb as dirt. Yeah. And it's an apt description for human beings. Yeah. If they fall on their sides, do sheep get up? No. The shepherds got to get them up. Because guess what? They will stay on their side until the bile builds up in their guts and they burst. Yeah. The shepherd has to get them up. If one of them decides they're going over the cliff, nobody looks up. They all just go over the cliff, which is why they need a shepherd. They're dumb beyond imagining. And so are we.
And what they said was that sometimes you got to break their legs, because they just don't get. That was the part.
Nothing. We just
that was just interesting. So interesting on this story. And so I think as I see the number of people, for instance, okay, so I'm a musician. I live and work by what I go through. How could I say it? My stimulus check finally arrived.
Yes! 50,000,000 years later.
I thought, wait a minute.
Did you get weak in the knee?
First of all, I started off, first of all, I thought, okay, well, you would need to check that out. Because they were saying, they have all of this publicity that says, we will find out for you why you're not. So they want your money so they can tell you why you're not getting it. And all you have to do is be patient and wait because it'll come. So have yours arrived?
Oh, Ben,
I did get one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Christine, it should arrive. It arrived. They're switching.
No, I did. I did get one.
Okay. Okay. So yeah. So mine was like
just recently also.
Yeah. So it was like it was kind of a long time ago. But when I looked at the legislation that they're putting out relative to the people that are unemployed, they said, okay, we got to cut that because they're having a great time on unemployment and they don't want to go back to work. So we got to cut that. Okay, this is what I don't get. Okay, so you've got to cut that, but nobody's cutting the funding to the corporations that took the money and bought back stock and took the money and
gave them more money
and laid off people.
Yeah.
The airline.
We're doing it again. We're doing it again. And it's just so disheartening.
So, and so as we said before, we have a situation where this president is determined not to leave the mansion, the white mansion on the corner where the slaves built. Okay, he's determined he's not, and so he's fishing the story of maybe we should postpone the election until it's a safer time.
Carrie Lam just did that in Hong Kong. Bye.
Really?
I saw that. Yep.
Sure did. Watch. He does not plan to leave, and we're stupid if we don't plan to counter his plan.
Well,
I suggest dynamite.
Well, and the thing is that, okay, so if someone pointed out quite clearly, if they decide that they're not going to leave, and then there's a vote, then the Speaker of the House becomes the person who is Pelosi.
That'll work.
So it's like,
that'll work.
It's just amazing. As a student of political science, I have never seen anything like it. I came here, I thought it was a zoo here, but that not realize.
Little did we know
that there is so much that's going on now. So my position now, or my question is that since there is so much friction coming from the religious community relative to this order that does not allow them to assemble in the huge numbers that they're in, and they're saying that how is it possible that people can go out and protest and they can't meet inside in the building? I think you just said it. Okay, they're outside and you're inside, and they can wear a mask outside, and you people are not thinking about wearing a mask inside. I think it's a moot point that's just like that. But the point is being put out that way because I believe that a lot of the churches have not been able to come to grips with what's being required as a result of how the virus has affected the religious community. And
we want to continue what we've been doing. It hasn't worked for a long time, but we want to do what we've been doing. And I believe God's saying very clearly, what you've been doing in the churches doesn't work or ought to have been changed a long time ago. So how about this? I'm going to fix it so you can't do what you used to do the way you used to do it. Be creative. Think outside the box. Figure it out.
Scripture does. It's full of. I'm tired of your
Don't want to
your.
hear it. Don't want your offerings. I don't want you to shut up. Don't sing me no songs. Don't pray me no prayers. Don't be meeting until you get your hearts right. Shut up and sit down.
It's quite amazing. And in Switzerland, how are you handling it in Switzerland?
The churches were closed for a while and now they're reopened, but most churches are, I would say they're not given like different standards than any other organization. But in my observation, so everyone is sort of, required to practice physical distancing and mask wearing in some cases. And there are, certain distance apart in the work setting or the church setting, or certain limitations to numbers, of people meeting indoors or outdoors. But it's gotten pretty big. I have a feeling it might go down again as we see numbers go up. But my observation is that churches are taking some of the strictest measures, to just really be careful. So, they are meeting, but, with masks, with hand sanitizers, without singing. You might have a cantor or a couple of people in the front singing, but the congregation isn't singing. And just with a lot of different practices around communion, all this kind of thing. And people are coming back, but also not in the numbers that they were there. So a lot of churches are doing a blended thing where they're having, like the online at the same time as live. But not all churches are doing that now. But
Right.
some are. Like, for example, mine is doing that. Yeah. But, I think I was listening to a speaker talk about the need for hospitality, and as a entrance into community and really sharing love and really living out the gospel and really loving one another. And I think that's a good word. I mean, it's again, we have to be creative in it, because we can't gather in the same ways we're used to, but we can gather some of us can gather in limited ways. But we're gathering right here. There are ways to reach out to one another, and to form groups that check up on each other and to get to know each other better and to share, our burdens and to try and solve problems together. And so I hope that our churches can take up this invitation. I mean, I think a lot of our churches have gotten creative. To some degree, or at least we've taken measures to go online and to learn some new things and, to keep some things going. And there have been lots of some creative service, opportunities and this and that. But I feel like we're hitting a point where we're of fatigue or something. This thing is going to keep going for a while. And, we don't know what the future is. And I think we're hitting a point of grief, of kind of corporate grief, and we're all in different stages. Some are still in the first stage of denial, but some have worked through it, and are getting to the point of, okay, how do we pick up and live, but live with love, live to protect others, but also reach out to others. And lots of us are way in the middle. And so we have to keep, touching people where they are. And that's only going to happen in relationship. So I think it's a call to deepen our reliance on God as individuals, and then to deepen our relationships and see what God wants to make out of those relationships, which is called community. That's called the church.
I think it's interesting that you bring up the discussion about relationships, because we could you can't give anybody a hug anymore, okay? there's no hugging going on. There's no shaking hands. There's no doing any of the other little things that were quote unquote, touchy feely, and so on and so forth. Okay, so it's to demonstrate your concern. However, I believe that even with the challenge that this has presented, all of a sudden, now if your sister lives on the other side of the world and she wants to talk to you, she can get on the internet and not pay a dime if she really wants to hear you or see your face. Okay, now that has never happened. And I will tell you from experience, when I left the other side of the world and moved here, just to stay in touch, I was spending $300 and $400, close to euro or lira, whatever it was, a month on a phone bill. And talk about being happy when that was over. And so now it's kind of like, okay, all of the things are in place. You can still congregate. You can still, have a laugh and see people's faces and so on and so forth and hear their voices. And, I marvel at the fact that my father died in 1996. And I have a video with him in it, a video, one. However, my mother passed in 2014. Girlfriend is, she has at least 4 or 5 on the net. She's singing and all the other stuff. I have video and stuff. Before, back in the 50s, the only people that had were the privilege with the 35 millimeter that did the little family, and had the little, what is it? There's the famous Holzingers from Charlottesville that everybody, heard your little family in and got it in. And so now you have this record of people of when you're seeing them move and in the flesh and so on and so forth. And so God is he's really gifted us in ways that are just out of this world.
My youngest great nephew is 3, Lukey. He decides that he needs to speak to his grandma and grandpa. And when he says speak to, he means FaceTime. He calls them every day. And the boy can talk. He's 3. He talks to grandma, Deb, half an hour, and then he wants to speak to grandpa, and he'll talk to him another half an hour. His mother's in the background about to go to sleep. And Deb says, oh, no, this is your child. You're not sleeping on him. He's talking to us, but you got to be right here. This little boy is 3. He has no problem. I need to speak with them. That means I need to see them. I want to see them. I want them to see me. Let's make it happen.
That's it.
And he does not stutter. He is clear. This can happen. You make it happen.
It's incredible that whereas God has allowed this thing to happen, but already in place there is the possibility of having discord and conversation and praying. They were saying that she was praying in tongues and this whatever on the thing, and she went out. Okay, but but the thing is that when I was coming, we didn't even dream, not even dream of that. I know they were always talking about, in the year 2020 we'd be riding in cars on a cushion of air. I ain't seen that yet, but okay,
it's coming.
But this is a major deal, and I've had to kind of accept something. For instance, I know I have 2 weddings. I have 2 in September, and I just got a call for doing something else. And there is no time. There really is not going to be a rehearsal. Okay, so we're singing stuff that we already know and have sung forever and a day, but the deal is that a lot of people they're saying, yeah, we miss it. Okay, I said, join the group. Okay, learn the song. Like everybody else, and they say, oh, we're missing, missing kind of hanging together. Get on the internet, sing the song like everybody else is singing the song. It's like, don't make it that deep, But it's like people are in Italian in there when they say you're grieving, you're in lutto. They're grieving over it, and there's the anger that goes with it. And I think a lot of people that are in church are angry about it. They're angry because they can't get dressed on Sunday morning, do the fashion show, and all the other stuff. And you can do the fashion show and go on the internet and let everybody see your new ad or whatever it is.
And they're angry, and they don't know what to do with the anger because it's church. And so other places, other people are getting the anger that they really want to express toward the church or the minister. So there's that. There are all kinds of psychological loops going on, but there is anger, and much of it displaced. The Karens in Target and Costco, that's displaced anger, and it's happening all over the place. We just not human beings. We don't human well. Bless them.
Well, and some of that, I guess, is based in fear. I mean, some of it is just based in our selfishness, and our kind of being inconvenienced. And I think that's where, that needs shaking up, and so we can take it as a blessing. But then as leaders, that needs shaking up, and so we can take it as a blessing. But then as leaders, we need to work with those people, and ourselves, when it comes up in us.
Yeah, I think
one thing that I recognize is that the best thing that ever happened to me was to be in therapy. And anybody who's going to work with people ought to be in therapy for some time, because we need to know what our triggers are. We need to know where we are broken, because if you don't, when something rubs that spot, you're going to break it. You're going to have this fit, and you're not going to know why, and you can't mitigate. We act as though we don't know we're human beings and fallible.
Yeah.
We put it outside of our minds. When in fact, most of what we're doing is because we're human. We have the tendency to do some things. And part of what I think the church is called to do, especially in this age, is to help us remember these are the cracks that historically have been a part of what it means to be a human being. We may have developed some new ones, but we sure haven't gotten rid of any of the old ones. This is who we are. This is, given the circumstances, this is how we generally react. Other people are outside of the curve, but for the most part, there's a shape to this thing. And we have an expectation. There's an arc of behavior that is typically human that you and I've got to acknowledge, because that's what the problem is. We don't acknowledge. Like, what happened? No, I would never. You don't know what you wouldn't do. My daddy used to say, hit the right button and anybody will do anything. And I've had a few moments in my life when I was about to do something because somebody hit my button, and my daddy's words rang back to me, hit the right button and anyone will do anything. I tell you today, I am perfectly capable of murder. Perfectly capable of it. I'm not proud of it, but I know it to be true. And I suspicion that everybody else better know it too, because it is true.
It's interesting you should say that. I was listening to Tony Evans, and he was saying that there is this thing that we have in us where God is trying to get us to understand that he's the king. He's the one that rules. But the old self will say, oh yeah, I got it. I'm the one. And then he has to show you in some situation where it's like, no, you're not. Okay, you're out of control. You can't handle that, and so on and so forth. And I think that in a global sense, the church is being shown this in such in such an auspicious kind of way. It's like, you know, before we you know, they were just going crazy, you know, even you know, the mega churches, they were usurping fund, you know, funding that should have been going to the World Health Organization. They were going to something else, and everybody was lined up for the gravy train, and all of a sudden, nothing. All of a sudden, absolutely nothing. And then what's happening is that, okay, the ushers can't usher no more.
Can't do the two-step.
Deacons can't be
Deep no more.
but the deacons can. They can get on the phone, get on the net, organize it so they can talk to those.
We can do it, just not like we used to.
The sick and shut in. It's like, get on the net, get on your phone. Everybody got a phone. They can put internet on it. They can talk to those folks and make that mission. It's very, very different. And you know, there's no sliding and slicing and so on and so forth. And you know, and the sermon better not be too long. Better not be too long, because they have already clicked. And when you see the thing fade to black, and you're the only one in the room, okay.
You better fade too, dude. You fade.
I just, you know, and I was standing at the sink. I was saying something, and I was saying, I said, now you know this is great. I was thinking, I haven't sang in so long, and I was singing at the sink. I said, yeah, you have. You've been singing at home. Okay, you've been singing at home and doing just fine. And you know, and I thought, yeah, you know, get your praise and give the Lord some praise. But it's not like it's not like it used to be. So we have this choir is supposed to sing in something on the 25th, and you know, they're saying, well, you know, we finally talked about the posting, because they're doing something on Sister Act in the piazza. So I know there's going to be social distancing when they come together and sing. And I know just personally, I will have my mask straight up, and I won't be trying to scream and sing in nobody's face or anything else. So you see how he cut all the screamers out. All the screamers out. All the divas in the choir. All the divas in the choir. Sit down.
We're not talking divahood, are we? No divas? Oh, what about you do?
Okay. and so it's like, all of a sudden, okay, you missed your moment. It's like, okay, if you want your moment, then you got to go to your net, your Facebook page, you know, duplicate yourself in 3, 4, 5 people. You got your whole choir, just you, sing your song and go ahead with it. And if not, go to your secret closet or sing it at home while you're cleaning. Okay. It's a whole, you know, I never dreamed that God could shut you down that way. God can shut you. No,
never saw it coming.
we used to always think, yeah, you got to be at home on your sick bed, laid out for God to shut you down. No. He didn't have to do that. He doesn't have to do that. Okay, so but if you imagine the whole world, just shut down. Just shut down. And
one thing that we think about as we think about the whole world is that some of those technologies that we are gifted with and that we're lazy in using, some of us are not as lazy and some are more lazy, but you know, there is not the same access, you know, for a lot of people in a lot of parts of the world, and where this has been an issue on the table for some time. You know, as the world is getting more and more online, it's becoming and you know, knowledge sharing and generation and is being done, and education is being done online more and more. That it's an issue. You know, that access is an issue. it's an issue within our country of the U.S., but it's an issue globally.
It is.
But this situation has accelerated the urgency of that issue, for many, because, as schools are shut down, people do not have computers and internet access and things like that. And so it's something we also, as we think about sharing and, and thinking of each other,
right.
I think it can help Americans to look beyond ourselves, and even to think both in terms of, well, we actually have quite a lot that we can be creative about using in our own environment, but then to start thinking of others and to start thinking about even how can we contribute to this situation.
Absolutely.
But people are getting creative at the same time. They're using WhatsApp. They're using for university lectures, because there are a lot more phones than computers, and
right.
WhatsApp, and they're using like TV to teach children lessons. But it needs more partnership between government and education and even private sector, and some people are pulling in to do it, but of course we're not doing it enough anywhere. But maybe there's a lesson there for the U.S. too. I mean, we're just becoming, we will not get to where we more than we are today. We're pulling apart at the seams, and the thing's ripping. So how do we pull together? How do we help the fabric of our society, pull together?
Okay, so I think it's a great point that you're putting out. I think it goes back to one of the things that we were saying maybe the 2 weeks ago, that we're talking about the community of mankind. One of the things that we were doing in this organization for Togo, is they were collecting books. They collected like a whole container, like one of those huge trucks of books and materials that they're sending to Togo in Africa. I think what really needs to happen is, instead of them insisting, I remember Charlottesville a few years back had gone through this thing where they said, at least at the community college level, they were giving everybody use of an iPad.
Yeah.
So that all of the materials that was going on with the teaching situation for the year was on an iPad. Looking back at it, if that indeed became an implementation, it was ahead of this curve with the COVID thing. And instead of just insisting that everybody get in a classroom, I think that what we're looking at is ways that we can have group study and use the technology that's there and continue the education. I know that they're talking about the trauma that a lot of the students are going through, so they're calling it trauma, because they're not going to school and so on and so forth. I think one of the ways that they could spend the money wisely is developing situations where, I know in Italy that they're devoting a lot of money for technology, and they're using gymnasiums, and they're using these large halls to set up space where they can do the social distancing and have kids go to school, in that context. But it's not the school that they were knowing in the past, because that's not going to, I think we've come to grips maybe a little bit here that it ain't going to never be that way. It's never going to be that way. You can forget it. It's one that's come and gone. I think if the transfer of funding, so that at least how they used to have, everybody had a radio or something in their house or something like that. I think that the use of the technology with phones and so on and so forth could be feasible at this time. You're going to say,
I'm looking at how the many ways that society's been turned upside down, and we go, oh no, but actually we can see how it can work everybody's so horrified that we're not looking at how something better can come out of it. The plain truth is that schools for many people are daycares and ways for their children to get at least 2 meals a day. That's the truth. That's how it shakes out socially and economically, and which is why it's so horrible for so many people that schools aren't open, because they don't have their daycare. They don't have their children getting food, nor do they have them getting access to the little bit of health care that's available to them through the school nurse system. The fabric's already torn, Christine. We were just a lot better at camouflaging it before the pandemic, but the tears have been there a long time, and they're starting now. We see this, all these people who do depend on the school for daycare, who do depend on the schools so that their children can have at least 2 meals a day. They don't
for daycare, who do depend on the schools so that their children can have at least 2 meals a day. They don't have the resources to have the choices that people with more money have. And I was listening to NPR this morning, and folks go, well, if you got money, you got choice. A lot of private schools are in trouble because guess what? They can't maintain the model either in pandemic.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because here, I mean, there are at least 25,000 American students that how can I say it? This one teacher said, she said, listen, when the American students got the word that pandemic had struck and they knew that they need to get out of Dodge, they left, then went straight to the airport, didn't go to the apartment. They said, call back and said, can you package my stuff and send it to me? They were on the plane and out of the country, taking COVID with them.
Yep.
Taking COVID with them, and so the situation is dire for these institutions because we got the Harvards and the Smiths and all the other stuff, and folk they're not here, and there all kinds of stuff in place because at least Florence is a tourist city, and it's not like it used to be.
Yeah. And the University of Virginia is scrambling mightily to open up momentarily.
So they're not as responsible as toddlers. They've been on the corner partying with no mask and no social distancing. Charlottesville stands the risk of becoming an absolute petri dish in just about a month. The university has said they will pay for everyone coming back to the university. All students must have a COVID-19 test. The university will pay for it. Every freaking student has to have one, and they have to have self-quarantine for 14 days before coming to Charlottesville. They're doing that to appease the city, but we're not quite buying it. And the parents are saying, we're going to pay all this much money, and there's no virtual learning. And they're doing the same thing with private schools. What do you mean? They can't board? We're paying all this money so they can board, and they can't board, and there's the learning is going to be virtual rather than in person. We need to rethink this equation. Let's tear up the old clock. And there it is. So are we going to keep monetizing stuff? Or is there another way to value what there is to be had and shared?
Absolutely. It's just they're concerned, at least they're talking about child abuse. They're talking about the numbers are up. Well, I guess if you're abusing a child, he's there and she's there and whatever, it's their families are together more often than not. But I wanted to go back to the whole thing about the essential workers and the necessities that they're facing. Because if they don't have the childcare and they don't have the other stuff and they're out of work, it's a whole new game completely. I just think with all the minds, the great minds that exist on that side of the planet, that nobody's coming up with a model that's different. And I think it's because they're not encouraged to come up with any kind of model, because they're insisting that the old model is still has value, and obviously you can't do it that way anymore. Because if I'm looking at a hearing where the room is usually jam-packed, and I'm seeing the Cochran, what's his name, who's the chair, and he's sitting at this huge table, and there are 3 people at the table is almost as long as the room. There are 3 people at the table. Down there's a second tier, there may be 2, and in the other part there are the 3 people that are testifying, the physicians, and 2 people, I think, that each of them had an assistant. Other than that, the room was vacant. So what are you saying? Okay, so if you have to do that for adults, means you have to do something similar to that with the distancing. And the other thing that they're not really talking about in the States is the tracing. That, to me, I think is a huge part. They're saying, today they were talking about, just do the simple things of the hand washing and wearing the mask and social distancing and the whole thing. But, they're downplaying the testing. They said that the government has sent 1 million or so tests to these nursing homes and so on and so forth to have the people in the nursing home tested. But to me, I think we missed the point in a country like the United States that's huge, as the 45th was saying. It's different than when you got a country that's smaller, but which means that with the amount of money and technology that's there, why isn't it possible that every family does not have the possibility of being tested? Every family has to be tested. To me, that speaks volumes.
And my sister Deb has had 2 knee replacements. Both knees replaced this year. And at certain points before they can go on with the treatment, she has to be tested for COVID. It took almost 3 weeks for her results to come back. If your results are going to take 3 weeks to come back, then the point of the test is obviated.
Yeah.
I mean, and with the White House saying that the information on COVID, which used to go daily to the CDC, needs to come to them now. I mean, who allows that? The CDC reported daily. The White House says, "Oh, we'll do it weekly." You can't even use the information. It's too old. It's insane.
It begs to the point of okay, so why does it have to go to the White House?
Yes, why indeed? Why would that be? Shenanigans.
Well, and the other side to this, I think, is an important issue, because they're saying that relative to the whole COVID situation, there were people that had to have necessary surgeries that could not have them. Mm-hmm. And so they were put at risk because they had these illnesses and situations that needed to be taken care of, but all those were put on the back burner because of COVID. And so that there is the drain, the risk, and people that have lost their lives relative to not being able to have a transplant or some of the other things that are going on. I think it's a stress on their health system, and that there needs to be some kind of positioning. And I think the whole thing that we've been saying for like 5 meetings is it's called leadership. I think it's just a leadership situation. And the difference here is the premier got on the hopper and said, we're shutting all the schools down. It's a lockdown. Ain't nobody going nowhere. There's not going to be no discos, no salons.
End of discussion.
No fashion shows, no this, that, and the other. And his opposition said, well, who gave you the right? We're supposed to have meetings. Don't care. Okay, this is a drastic measure, and we've got to get the curve to flatten down. Okay, so now the curve is flattened. Okay, they were dying like flies. Let me tell you, they were dying like flies. And when I saw the people in the suits outside of the window, I said, oh, it's on my street too? Because, I mean, Florence is full of people that are seniors. And so you look at the situation, but that's because you have a president that, or someone in authority that said, this is the position that we're going to take.
Yeah.
The difference is in the United States, there was
we don't have any leadership. We've had the last day I was at church, I preached on the 15th of March, 3 days before my birthday. And the quarantine, I think the quarantine either happened that Monday or Tuesday. Okay. And so we've had from the middle of March until now to work to flatten the curve, to do testing, to do flattening, tracing, and we've not used any of this time, any of it, with a national directive, none of it. And so now we're here today, and there's nothing.
Hold up a minute. Okay, so in Charlottesville, you went on quarantine on the 15th.
No, it was the Monday or the Tuesday, the 16th, the 17th quarantine. It may have been the 18th, okay. Right in there. The last Sunday I preached at church was the 15th of March.
Okay, so we went into quarantine on the 9th, and the curve went
right. We had every evidence that if you do what you're supposed to do, the curve would flatten. We had every evidence by then. And if everybody had done it, because again, there are states in this country that haven't closed down yet. Yeah. They haven't closed down yet. And they happen to be the very ones who either didn't close down or closed down so late that now that they've got a mess. They're hot spots. Almost every one of them is now a hot spot. Mm-hmm. We aren't talking rocket science. We're talking just the powers of observation to see what is going on here. And people have taken leave of their senses, storming into stores and screaming and carrying on. You all are, why you are taking away my liberty? Shut up and get out of my face. If you want that much liberty, you need to go home.
Or screaming in the faces of people that they're telling them that they need to go out and put a mask on, and they're going to turn around
and pulling guns and throwing punches and losing their mind. And one woman, she was classic. She says, I'm trying to be a kingdom woman, cussing like a fiend in front of her children because she was asked to wear a mask or leave. And, did I miss something? I mean, roll tape back. What did I miss?
Yeah. So it's almost as if I remember your sermon about exceptionalism. This is exceptionalism at its best. It's like, okay, until Pearl Harbor, we were like, the king. Okay, Pearl Harbor hit, and we didn't get it. Okay, it's like you're not out of touch. Okay, then a few other things happen. We got the Spanish flu, and you're still not out of touch. And then you get the Twin Towers. Okay, which is not that long ago, and you still think you're accepted from the whole thing. It's like, are we the modern day? How can I say it? The children of Israel, that think, okay, God's gonna be there for me. You know, I can do whatever I want. You know, and I decide to sit out, and I'm gonna,
So try it.
Yeah.
Try it.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did Sammy Davis tell Archie Bunker when on the episode of when he appeared? He says, "Now I know, Mr. Bunker, that you ain't better than nobody."
Interesting.
It's a hard lesson for us. It's a lot harder than it ought to be. It's just hard for us to get. We don't want God to belong to anybody but us. And that's because we want to put God in a box and lift the lid when we want something. But I don't want you to have that access, Christine. God's mine. God can't possibly belong to you also, because if that's the case, then I can't get God to do my bidding. I've got to be able to claim that I'm God's special one, and so I therefore have a dispensation that nobody else has. Bull.
Yeah.
Bull.
Absolutely.
And insane juvenile bull at that.
Well, you know, I think we're experiencing. I mean, that we're talking tantrums. We're talking. Just talking.
Yeah.
We're talking tantrums.
We really are.
Yeah.
We really are.
Which goes back to the beginning. We've lost the art of conversation and dialogue.
Well, you know, Americans were never good at that. I mean, I've cringed all my life at the average American response to a foreign voice, of an accent. All of a sudden, they can't understand. What are you saying? What are you saying? I can't hear you. And I'm going, he said, may I have some water, please? He just said it with an accent. What the heck are you talking about?
That's really true, you know? that actually really surprises me when I hear it. And I've heard that too. Every time it surprises me.
You go, you said this is a joke?
Yeah.
Am I being pranked?
Yeah.
Oh, she really means it.
Yeah. But I think somehow, it certainly between some groups, conversation has been prevented, let's say, you know. But I think as a quality, as a skill, and as something which people understand that we need, as a necessary tool, as something that people understand that we need, you know, we need in our communities, we need in our families, we need in our churches, we need in our politics, we need as human beings. I think that both the understanding and the skill, the understanding of its importance and the skill has been we observably decreasing for decades. Yeah. And we're at a frightening point. And I think it's an interesting subject for us to think about. How can we speak into, literally create spaces for people to learn how to speak, you know, with each other, and learn how to, you know, then act. I mean, it will inevitably influence action.
Well, this is what this conversation is. This is what I do most of my life. I enter into spaces where I have to listen and hear, and others listen and hear to me. I'm very conscious of that. It's a very basic skill, but it's necessary. The state of diplomacy in this country, our pulling out of diplomatic corps, is very indicative of what's happening the world over. We're saying, I don't need to talk to you. I'm not going to talk to you. And that's deadly.
I don't need to
deadly.
talk to you.
That's deadly. It's stupid. It's beyond stupid. Because if you don't talk to me and I don't talk to you, how do we have a relationship? As you said very aptly before, the church is relationships. It's relationships. That's what it is.
If you take away the basis for relationship, there's no relationship. The basis for relationship is speaking with, talking to, getting to know each other, putting on each other. I can't call you a nothing and a nobody if I've allowed myself to hear your story and to be touched by it and recognize how we dovetail in our existence, because I may not have had exactly the same experiences you've had, but there's something in your being that resonates with mine. And we know it because we communicate with each other. And if human beings communicate long enough, or not even
long enough, when I look into your eyes, Christine, there is something there that I cannot ignore. And when you look into my eyes, there's something there you cannot ignore, because that's what human beings are. There's something in it. It just resonates. If we just open ourselves to seeing, to being together, in whichever way we can manage, there's something there that draws us to each other rather than apart. And if I'm afraid, I say I'm afraid and get over it.
But you have to understand. I mean, okay, so we can never get past it unless we face it. Okay, it's an era. It's been an era since the foundation of the entity. Okay, we don't need to talk to you because we're children of God, but you're the children of a lesser God. Okay, okay, so it's a completely different thing. And the point being is that you can stand in the room and you can serve me, and I can talk on and on and on and pretend that you're a non-person, and you can be in the room, and we don't even care if you hear it or not, but you're not allowed in the conversation. So we're still at that point. I see it often. I see it with these hearings where you have the debates between the guys that have been in this situation for 30, 40 years, quote unquote, serving the country, and you hear the people that are not the usual, the others that are there, and how they respond, and the timbre, the tone of their voices when they're trying to get their points across, and they've got to negate the whole, how can I say, the humanity of these people in order to get them through. So now the whole gist is that, okay, we're at war, and this is the war that we're having. We're going to have this war because I'm going to keep sending troops to your place. And, I don't care if you asked or not. Okay, I don't care if your mayor asks. I don't care if your governor asks or not. We're going to send them because this is what we're going to do, because this is how we want to divide and separate so we can remain in power. And it's like, no, it's not going to happen. It's absolutely not going to happen. And it's one of the things that happen, and I'm not advocating that, so I hope nobody thinks I am. Okay. When they dropped the bomb, they had to talk. The bomb has already been dropped. Okay. And so it's almost like,
this is fallout.
Yeah, it's really like that. And my prayer as I go to my seat, as I close, my prayer is that we continue the conversation in whatever shape or form it has to take, because I think it's highly necessary to desensitizing that, because I think we as leaders are being required to know the temperature of the times. We can no longer say, yeah, I'm going to go stay off and retreat for 3 weeks, and say, you get back and the whole world is different in 3 weeks. It's different in a week,
Different universe.
And so we don't have that kind of luxury anymore. And God is expecting us to do and to be what He established us to be. And I believe that He has given us the tools to operate in the situation. And it's going to take them, and it's the only way it's going to happen. But we've got to keep the conversation going. We've got to have the dialogue, and it's like, it's like he did say, what, two or three are gathered together, I'm in the midst. And folks don't, they're still arguing because we can't meet in that big old building down the street. It's like, get a grip. It's like, get a grip. You can meet, you can call me up on the phone, see me face to face. Same thing. Anyway, our time is done. And as I said, if we can keep the conversation going, I'm up for it. Amen.
All right.
Okay.
Blessings.
Amen.
Yes.
Blessings.
Yes.
Blessings.
Ciao, ciao.
So Christine, I'll see you later.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay. So.
Ciao.
Dr. Nohan.